10-minute daily reality check, Labor Day weekend coming right at you. Imagine being a woman. Oh, for all my female listeners today, I'm going to tell you things that are just going to make you feel so good. Like ridiculously good, so good you don't even know it yet. And for all you men listeners right now, you are going to know what my life was one day as a woman. Hey, Jay, do you know that I was a woman once?
I didn't know that, David.
So what did you say to me about 5 minutes ago? Women are a whole, was it a different species?
Yeah.
Describe what that means to you.
I don't understand what goes through your head. You think totally differently than I do. And I don't relate.
Okay. Is it you don't relate to women, or is it more like you don't know what to say to them because you think they're so different?
Yeah, it's probably I don't know what to say. I don't have to deal with a lot of the stuff that you do, so I sometimes it's probably hard to relate to the experience, but I appreciate that you have it.
Okay. So I did an experiment one time because I wanted to know what it was like to be a woman. Now, this is the greatest experiment in the world, and women listeners love this, and I one day went out in New York City a long, long, long time ago in a land far, far away with things called Walkmen, and I put my Walkman on. You remember the Walkman, right? I put my Walkman on, and instead of hitting on women all day long, which is what a 24-year-old guy would do, I spent my day imagining being her. So I would follow women, literally for blocks at a time, being the most stealth version of me. I'd follow them into stores. I'd poke around. I wasn't creepy because I did it with a way of looking at what it was like to be a woman. I'd watched the way men looked at women. I watched the way they tried to approach or not approach. I watched so many things about what was going on. I watched guys creepily look at women at stoplights. I watched men whistle at women. I watched men stare at women but not know what to say. It was an amazing day because I imagined what it would be like to be her. I'd imagine what it would be like to literally have eyes on me all day long, but yet nobody wants to talk to me. So I went out to a bar, a really popular bar. I was a bartender at the time. I went to this bar called Bamboo Bernie's. It was on the Upper West Side. Then I went to a bar called Lucy's, and then I went to another place. Oh God, I forgot the name of the other place. It was kind of a wine bar in the 80s, right? And I sat at the bar, and instead of looking at women, instead of looking at them to want to talk to them, I imagined what it was like being them. And then I looked around and I took the whole perspective. I looked at the way that guys were talking. I watched them engage with each other. I watched them have amazing conversations with their friends. I watched how nervous they were when men came by that they weren't interested in, yet the man that they weren't interested in didn't have a clue that the woman wasn't interested. But yet I did because I was watching it through the eyes of a woman. I was watching it through the perspective of her. The next morning I woke up, I was really addicted to it, so I went and I bought Cosmopolitan magazine, and I bought Glamour, and I bought all the women's magazines, and I spent the day in the park reading these magazines about how my thighs should be slimmer in 10 days, how I should have great sex, how my bikini body should look fantastic, and everything was about how wonderful I should look or how wonderful I should feel, making me feel really shitty by the end of the day. I didn't feel like my man boobs and my man butt really would look good in a bikini by the end of the day. I was looking to see if I had cellulite, literally by the end of the day. And I'm not kidding you on that. I went home and I checked out my man ass in the mirror and turned around to make sure I didn't have any manulite, I called it. I felt my stomach and it felt puffy and bloated because I read articles about puffy and bloated. I started thinking about how bad my relationship at the time was, but I wasn't even in a relationship because I took the boyfriend quiz. And I realized that by taking the quiz, I was with somebody who wasn't good for me. I decided to take it another step further because I wanted to know what it was like to always be under the microscope. So I started interviewing women. I literally started going out and asking them, and this is actually part of my Girls Tell All series 10 to 15 years later that I did, right? And I actually interviewed women and I asked them what their biggest complaints were about men. Not being heard, not being felt, not being respected. But one of the biggest things, Jay, that women said to me is that men treat them like a fucking alien and not like a normal person. That men don't know how to respect boundaries, that men don't understand when a woman is walking alone in a parking lot late at night, that's the time you don't want to say hello. That's the time you don't want to stare at them or turn around and look at their ass. They see all that stuff. 3 men sitting in a garage. A woman walks out to get to her car. Don't stare at her and make her feel uncomfortable. They told me all these things. And it was amazing because I got to have a perspective of the way a woman thinks and feels. And when a woman feels and thinks certain things, it's my job as a man when I go over and talk to a woman to make her feel safe and secure. And that's really what I learned. By going out and pretending I was a woman and really watching women all day long, I realized what microscope they live under all the time. The pictures, the airbrush pictures, the skinny friends, the friends that have better bodies than they do, the friends that have, women are constantly comparing. Now, men compare too in ways, but women are always comparing themselves on a physical that they're not enough, and they're always more conscious of their physical stuff. That's why you can have the guy with the big belly dating the girl with the hot body, because she's accepting of his belly. She's not accepting of her own belly. She's accepting of his belly. She'd like to accept her belly, but she can't because she's constantly being compared. One of the greatest exercises I tell men all the time to do is to literally go and buy women's magazines and start reading and getting a different perspective the way a woman is. The second thing a man can do, and this is really fascinating, is steal a picture or 2 or 3 of some beautiful women on Match.com who live in Seattle, Washington, or Los Angeles, and you live in Washington, D.C. or New York, and put them up on Match and Tinder and Bumble and create a fake profile. And look at the way men approach you online. I know it's a little repulsive as a man to get a dick pic, but it's also quite comical. Write a profile about what you're looking for. Write a profile. You know, I'm an educated woman who likes to go for long walks, who likes to go and talk with my friends, and I'm up for an adventure, and I'm looking for my soulmate. Write all that stuff. Write all the mushy woman stuff. On Tinder or Bumble, just write 120 characters or whatever you're allowed, and see the responses you get, and understand as a man what turns a woman off. Because you'll find the responses that men send are responses that are really creepy 90% of the time. Granted, you're going to have to sift through the dick pics, and that's kind of annoying because you really don't want to see, you barely even want to look at your own dick, more or less someone else's dick, because I don't know about you, Jay, but I go to the men's locker room and I think to myself, if I was a woman, I'd be gay, because there's no way in the world I'd want to fucking play with that thing. I mean, I even get bored when I masturbate. I fucking don't even like it, you know? I can't even get myself hard, because I fucking don't even think a man's body's that great. So by putting these images of a hot woman out on the internet and you reading the responses, you start to understand what women are really thinking, what they go through, and why the modern woman is so turned off to dating, so turned off to men, so frustrated. Because they've been put under a microscope for so long. And now in today's modern life, they're under the microscope even more. The worst possible form of dating for a woman is to go and put pictures up and be evaluated that way. And yep, that's what we got. Let's just evaluate each other. Let's evaluate each other just via pictures, and that's it. Forget about what's inside. Forget about what's written. Forget about everything else. So today's reality is thinking about what it would be like to be a woman. Have empathy, have compassion. Maybe you'll start treating them as an old friend instead of an object, because they've been objectified the second they started reading Cosmopolitan magazine as a teenager. They've been objectified when they were even younger than that. If you notice, when I'm out with my daughter, what I notice a lot is people come over, and instead of asking her questions like, how's your day? Or, oh my God, that's so funny. How's your ice cream cone? They always look at her and go, oh my God, she's so beautiful. That's what people do. The objectifying of little girls turns into the objectifying of teenagers, turns into women that feel objectified. So if you understand women, you'll start to have compassion for them. You'll start to feel something for them, and you'll start to relate to them maybe on a level far deeper. Treat them as an old friend instead of an object. They've already objectified themselves. They're already under the microscope themselves. They've already ripped themselves apart. Your job, and every man's job as a man, is to make a woman feel safe, feel secure, and feel heard. Otherwise, you're just doing what every other man has ever done. So my few days that I have been a woman, technically I never dressed up as one on Halloween because I always felt like guys who dressed up as women as Halloween, there was some definite latent homosexuality somewhere in there, or some really weird mother complex, because it's really creepy. And look, if you're one of those guys who dressed up as women as Halloween and I've just insulted you, I am way open to hearing your perspective on it. I'm not always right. I'm wrong as often as I'm right. But I realized that it gave me more empathy, more compassion for the female brain and the female mind. Don't fear them, embrace them, and have compassion for their journey. Because we've never lived under the microscope. Maybe as men, we've spent time emulating, the Tom Bradys of the world and the Michael Jordans of the world, and maybe we wanted to just be an athlete. But you know what? Most men walk around and they're not in the best shape in the entire world, and they're mediocre dressers. Even though they see men that are debonair and great shape, it just doesn't affect us the same way. Women are more self-conscious. So it's a great experiment to spend your time as a woman, because you're able to understand them, and maybe then you'll actually honor them more. Maybe you'll speak to them more on a level of friendship when you first meet instead of objectifying them sexually. They've already been objectified enough. Anyway, that's it. Labor Day weekend. Enjoyed the bikini time. I had to throw that in just to bust everybody's balls. Enjoy the last weekend of summer. Summer is not over till the 21st, but in America, we tend to say Labor Day is the official end of summer. So enjoy it. And just for a moment, in today's reality, just think about what it would be like to be a member of the opposite sex. And women, imagine what it was like to be a man. Imagine how hard it is to go over and talk to you and get the nerve up to talk to you. So make it easier for the men this weekend. And men, make it easier for the women. Have some compassion about being under a microscope every day. David Wygant out, 10-minute daily reality check every day.